Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is May 10th, 2023. It's going to be a little shorter call today. They got me again. It seems that some of the individuals that I exchange information with, some directly involved in Dinar and others that are indirectly involved, but some of their disciplines overlap into what we're doing. Scheduled a call for noon on Wednesday, which they always seem to do to me, so I want to get into that call. For those calling in for the first time, I want to suggest when you have a chance to go back and listen to two calls. One call was the call from March 1st, which deals specifically with the detailed history of the central bank. And when you understand that, you'll understand a lot of what's going on right now. And second is our call of last week, May 3rd, which was a call which went into detail with regard to the turnkey program we put in place to assist you, whether you're a Dinarian or not, frankly. So if you listen to those two calls, I think that'll really help get you up to speed. The call I'm going to get into has to do with states establishing their own digital currency in order to avoid the central bank digital currency, and I'll get into that in a little bit more detail in a minute. Even though this is a shorter call, I need to touch on some of this. Last week I was talking about a window for the reinstatement of the dinar in country. I had a window from the 21st of April to May 15th. It looks like we're close to May 15th. I think it's going to be delayed a little longer for a few more weeks for a couple of reasons. There is some delay on the budget. I wouldn't be too concerned about that simply because this is not a one-year budget. This is a 3-year budget. And it's coming along after basically they've been operating without a budget in Iraq for some time. So that's not unsurprising. The other issue is the implementation of their electronic platform, which they think will be up and running in early June. I've discussed in the past the fact that in my mind, while a perfect scenario would be the reinstatement of their currency and then the passage of the budget inclusive of the new exchange rate, that doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. So the reinstitution of the currency and the passage of the budget do not have to be directly linked, although a lot of individuals seem to think that's the case. But in my mind, they're trying to establish the system, banking system, that they need to accommodate the new exchange rate and the new national currency, whether they pass the budget before or after. It looks as though they're at the very least trying to get the new platform in place. They're trying to create, of course, the cashless society, issuance of debit cards, the purchase of all goods and services in country with the dinar. And remember, they're establishing bank accounts for every citizen in Iraq. Initially, they discussed this as a means of distributing the revenue from the hydrocarbon law. But, of course, their other intention is that they want to collect the remaining provisional 3-0 currency out there. And so by establishing the bank accounts, they will deposit the provisional 3-0 currency, and in exchange for that, they'll get the new national currency. So I think what's the delay is simply getting that in place. Of course, nothing's new with Iraq. They move a little bit in one direction, then they pump the brakes, and they move a little in the other direction. This is what happens in a parliamentary system. There's this very complex system. There's a tribal element as well. So, it's just not as straightforward as we would like. Now, there were demonstrations this week in Iraq having to do with a couple of things. First, of course, is the change in the exchange rate. People are getting a little impatient. They've lost their purchasing power. They don't have the ability to make change, and they want to see the new exchange rate. And also, There's been delay in the adjustment in the salaries for employees, government employees. So for these reasons, there's been some demonstrations. Thus far, Sadr has been pretty quiet. But if all of this doesn't get resolved within a couple of weeks, I think he's going to really drop the hammer, and we're going to see a lot of protests, which I'm sure the government at this point, wants to avoid. There have been some recent statements from Soudani, from the finance minister, from the CBI, talking about the projected reinstituted rate of $1.50 for each dinar. So if that's in fact the case, the dinar, each dinar would be worth more than the dollar. I used to say it was a slight premium over the dollar, $1.15 to $1.20. It looks like it's going to be $1.50 for each dinar. So this means, of course, that the dinar is stronger than the U.S. dollar, which, of course, is the promise that they've made. Once they do reinstitute, whether it's $1.10 or $1.50, they will then float it. It'll go under the 4X. And in my opinion, a lot of individuals are saying, well, it's going to be incremental. It'll take some time. Once they reinstitute at or above $1 for the dinar, I see them going back to $3 to $4 very, very quickly. The extrapolated Basel IV compliant rate I've seen was $4.85. We're probably looking more realistically at something around $3.50, but even at $3.50, we're in very good shape with that. Also, after the reinstitution, Trust Unlimited, after more than a decade of marketing our trust, will cease the marketing of the trust, and our Wednesday calls are going to deal with the exchange process, taxes, investments, offshore planning, and some strategies to minimize exposure to the central bank digital currency. There's also a lot of talk now about the QFS, the blockchain, and what they refer to as interoperational ability, which is really a run-on word there. I myself am very suspicious of anything the government touts. The government, and for that matter, all of the global NGOs, they're pushing very, very hard for utilizing the central bank digital currencies, quote-unquote, globally, and their systems. I really like the concept of the states issuing their own digital currency and circumventing the federal system, because we know the federal system is going to be a surveillance system. We know they're going to pick winners and losers. We know they're going to institute over time something like the Chinese credit score system, which is anathema. I've always maintained that the information available with the central bank digital currency is a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights. The government's argument is it's our money. If you want to use our money, then you have to forfeit certain rights. Well, of course, the way to circumvent that is to utilize the state currencies. So how are we going to accomplish that? Well, pursuant to Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, while the Congress has the power to coin money, the states can do so long as they are confined to the use of gold and silver. Well, a fully gold-backed state digital currency should accomplish that objective. Then there's House Rule 2435, which gives the Treasury and the Federal Reserve 24 months to publicly disclose all of their gold holdings and gold transactions. Now, I find the 24-month period to be a little bit curious. It doesn't seem to me that a central bank agency should need 24 months to produce the books. The books should already exist. The reason I think they're giving them 24 months is they're basically saying, look, we're not going to do a full-blown audit of the Fed, and we're not going to demand all of the information right now. We're going to give you 24 months to, quote-unquote, clean up the books. That's why I think the 24-month period. Now, of course, this bill has not passed, but the bill has been introduced in the House. The other bill that I think is important and this is what the subject of the phone call I'll be listening to in a few minutes, is the Texas Bill 2334, the state to introduce a gold-backed digital currency. Now again, and I've discussed this on previous calls, the way to circumvent a central bank digital currency, assuming that it goes through, and it might not, but assuming that it does, is we establish accounts in those states. We utilize those state regional banking systems. We make purchases using ATM cards and credit cards issued by those banks, and in so doing, we not only avoid the central bank digital currency system, but in the Texas bill, the digital currency there, which is gold-backed, is redeemable in gold or in hard currency. So again, this would circumvent the central bank digital currency. We are a constitutional republic. We have a decentralized system referred to as federalism, states' rights. And so what we're seeing is a constitutional pushback for what I consider to be an unconstitutional centralization of just about everything in Washington, D.C., inclusive of currencies. And by the way, they're redefining what money is. Technically, we lease their money. They still own it. And that is contrary to what has existed basically since the inception of our country. So I'm going to get onto this call. I'm very interested to see what they have to say. Certainly whatever I glean from that call, I will, share on our next calls. For those of you that tuned in for the first time today and haven't had an opportunity to really listen to the things that we have to offer, again, I suggest you go to our call of March 1st, which is a detailed history of the central bank. It's a very interesting call, and I think you're going to be very shocked to see how much the central banks globally have interfered in the history of the United States. And then, of course, go to last week's call, which has a detailed explanation of the turnkey program we've put in place to assist you, along with a Q&A as well. If the things are of interest, I hope you'll subscribe and listen regularly. I hope you'll also share our calls with other like-minded individuals. If you'd like to get more information about our trust package after listening to those calls, you can either contact us by phone or by email. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. Contact us. We'll be glad to send you our initial package. It has a lot of information about us. You can review the package. It also has information about our trust, the currencies, all of that. You can contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. If you wish to proceed with the establishment of a family asset protection trust, everything is included in the package. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to assist you, and there will be no consultation fee. Our next call will be next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and have a great week. Bye-bye.